to this Brandon Town Council's Precept meeting on this day, Monday, the 6th of January 2025. All the usual husbandry, if you like. If there's a fire alarm, please leave the building by the stairs and do not use the lift. Fire escape front and rear. We are being live streamed, so none of the public are in the picture, but you will obviously be heard. If you could all make sure that your mobile devices are not in a buzzy type mode. Thank you very much. And we will move on to agenda item number 1, apologies for absence.
So we've got 3, we've got Cyber and Sam.
Thank you. Number 2, declarations of interest and requests for dispensations. If a member has not given a dispensation, they must withdraw from the meeting while the item is being discussed if you have an interest. And I take it you'll have signed the book anyway if you have. Yeah. Item number 3, public participation. The meeting will be adjourned from now for a period of 15 minutes to allow members of the public to speak. You must note that you can only speak on items on this agenda. For any other item in future, you would write into the clerk in good time before the meeting. So I will throw it over to our 3 members of the public. Annette.
Good evening, everyone. Maybe a bit late, but Happy New Year to everyone.
And to you.
And to you.
I've got quite a few things to go through. Number 1201 on the list, staff salaries. It's exactly the same. I presume there's no pay increases on that. Number 1202.
Would you like us to answer them as you go through them?
It's up to you.
Yeah.
I can answer that in that I don't work as many hours as the previous clerk. I work 10 hours, I only work 15 hours a week, so there's a reduction in that. There's also a reduction in the pay for another couple of members of staff, and that has balanced out the increase in pay and national insurance.
1202. I see there's been a bit of a problem on the pensions, although it's not as bad as what it was several years ago. But it was agreed at the time that it was 3% on that figure at the time on your previous reports of last year's precept. It was agreed 3%.
Okay. Well, I don't know what you're actually getting at.
Well, you've increased on the 1202 as a mistake.
Okay. What do you think it should be?
Well, you've turned around and said you've put a figure in there, whereas previously it was agreed at 3% on the 167.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Incorrect, isn't it?
I'd probably answer that because on 1202 is pension, and the previous figure spent last year, last financial year was 5,035.30. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it's gone up to 8,100. This is because the figure 5,035.30p was incorrect.
Even though, well, don't you have the accounts checked?
Well, it was produced by our last town clerk.
It wasn't increased last year.
And it wasn't increased last year.
Right.
So the amount that we're actually giving out on pensions has increased,
Yeah.
and that's why we've gone up to 8,100.
I might be able to help you out, because I did some figures myself.
Yep, go on.
And I think we probably should talk about this ourselves around the table, but for the benefit of Annette. I looked at the percentage of Well, pensions is linked into salary as a percentage, and I looked into the percentage of salary as of the Precept because I thought that it may be a little abnormal. But the news that I have is that the salary, pensions, national insurance have all been approximately anywhere between 41 and 46% of the Precept. So although it has gone up substantially, it's still in the right percentage
Yeah.
every year.
Yeah.
So, which would indicate that last year's figure was wrong.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you for that. Does that answer you?
Yeah.
Does it help?
Yes, thank you. I know we're not supposed to discuss things like that, but when you see things on the report, then it has to be questioned. Number 1401, Brandon Remembrance Playing Fields. I see that they still are being given the same amount of money. Now, on your report of last year, you did state that the bulk of the money for the Precept goes on staff wages, the groundsman in full-time employee, so that it's a major cost for the playing field. Throughout the year, they've been able to support other activities, and especially Brandon Festival, for example. Also activities on the river, wild swimming and Duke of Edinburgh Woods, etc. Maintenance of the field and equipment in continuing process, and a more vigorous approach has been taken towards things. Now I see that that is still the same figure. Should that not as well be 3%, as well as your other things that have gone up? Because being the same amount of money, when you divide that by 12, it works out at 2,750 a month, where you've got wages, etc. coming out of that.
I think you'll find the logic behind it is that it's a grant and not actually a council cost.
Sorry, could you speak up?
It's the cost that was put in is because it's a grant and not actually a council cost, so it's not our cost. So it's not us that's delivering the work. It's a grant as opposed to a cost to the
The
council.
grants go up each year, costs do.
Um,
So I would have expected
But
that
what I'm
grant.
saying is we're under no obligation to do that, but should the council choose to do that, they may, but we're under no obligation to do that because it's a grant as opposed to, that has to be applied for, as opposed to a cost.
Even though before it has been increased.
Yeah, but it's up to each council to decide if they want to do that. It's not a given.
And it's still paid in one lump sum, or is it still divided into two?
I think now they're
No,
paying
it's
a
now
lump sum.
paid in one lump sum.
And do you pay
Or will
that,
be,
pay
should we
that
say.
once you've received the end of financial year and approved by accountants?
I'm not with you.
Several years ago, there was problems. So I'm just saying, do you still do that procedure where you don't pay the 33,000 until you've received the accounts and approved accounts?
Yeah, that should be the case.
That should be the
As
case,
in
yes.
advance grants policy.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Can you finish now in one sentence?
Can I
Because you've
just-
had over your 5 minutes. There's other people wishing to speak.
Well, just a quick one on the cemetery, no cemetery, 2107. It's still, you're putting aside 20,000, it used to be 25, you are losing 5,000 year on year. It's not right because you keep saying that you cannot do things because there's not enough money there. Well, as far as I can see, I believe it's over 3 years that it's been changed, so that's £15,000 loss. That should now increase at least to 25,000.
At this stage, there's no need to.
But you're saying there's not enough money there to do an archaeological dig?
The thing is we're waiting for the information of what that looks like and how much it's going to cost. And until we actually have that information, we can't really make a decision on how much it's going to be.
Great.
So,
Yeah, Councillor Buchanan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Annette, she's 100% right. We used to pay in £25,000 a year, and then we had certain restrictions on our finances, and we dropped it down to £20,000 a year. We might decide tonight, if people are feeling benevolent, we might decide tonight, Annette, we might give them £25,000 per for this year. But at the moment, it sits at £20,000. But it's in our gift as councillors to debate it tonight and make a decision. Thank you, Chairman.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Kennedy. I'm a trustee of the Brandon Remembrance Playing Fields. My colleague, Brenda, unfortunately can't make it. She's still recovering from knee surgery. The Precept meeting tonight. The playing fields, in my view, are the jewel in the crown of Brandon. Without the playing fields, Brandon will struggle massively. Over the years, we have transformed the fields into a highly populated facility with varied activities for the community of Brandon. We're asking the council to consider an increase of our precept by 10%, as the demand on our income is stretched year on year. We have never had an automatic inflation increase, although our costs and overheads always increase by the rate of inflation or even more. Our current precept is £33,825. Our employment cost is £29,000. So it doesn't take a lot of sums to work out, there's not much money left after that. This leaves us £4,825. We also have the levies from the various activities of £4,524. That gives us a total for the year of £9,345. This must cover the cost of all maintenance. Remember in mind our tractor is 15 years old. General maintenance, repairs, vandalism, costs a lot of money for vandalism. I could go on, but I'm trying to make use of the time. Our expenditure equates to £39,900. That leaves us the shortfall of £349 before we even start the year. We only have one full-time groundsman, and he is responsible for looking after 33 acres. So I'm not going to go into the working that out, what we have to do there. Despite this, we work extremely hard to maintain and present a very clean and beautiful area. Some of the projects we have completed, we've upgraded the changing rooms in the Sports and Social Clubhouse at £35,000. We've now installed a water borehole. There was two reasons for that. One was to help us water the grass and the pitches, but more importantly, when we had the hot summer, it became a fire hazard. So the borehole now doubling up, it also helps us give us a facility to try and calm things down if we come across the hot weather that we all pray for. CCTV, both inside and around the Sports and Social Clubhouse, 2,300. All tenants now have formal lease and rent agreements. And we also have the gate now. We're trying to restrict some of the vandalism by putting a padlock on the gate. Some of our short-term plans, due to clerical oversight, we need to register the land. That's going to cost us now, I think, about £1,800. We intend to increase the rents of the inflation, while some rents on the commercial tenants by at least 10%, but to be agreed at our committee. We need to register the club building with a land registry, and necessary repairs to toilets in the social club, estimates being obtained for that. We'll work on the area between the allotments and the car park roadway, down to the river to clear dead trees, undergrowth, bank areas, seed wildflowers on the side next to the fishing lake. We want to plant trees, reseed grassed areas where needed, and picnic tables, seats, possibly name the area Queen Elizabeth II Memorial Garden, but that's flexible, that's just a name we put forward. We've applied for a grant of £5,000 from West Suffolk. That's been successful. We're very pleased about that to enable us to put the picnic table area and the area together. Another request from Tesco unfortunately wasn't successful. I work closely with the Brexham Fens, and I'm approaching them to a view to contributing towards the equipment and funding. And also we're looking to Brandon and Bloom possibly to help volunteer with all the planting of the trees and the seeds and so on. Our medium long-term plans, potential to install a 3G all-weather pitch, which was initially turned down by the local school. This could have a lot of benefits to the playing fields or for the football club and the youth teams. The present mugger, that's the all-weather pitch for people who don't understand what that is coming to the end of its life and needs repair. There'll also be any discussion on funding, management, charging for the use and attracting outside users. The skate park is still under discussion. As you know, we did a big project on that. It was rejected by West Suffolk Council because we were 6 foot by a flat flow zone. Recent changes to it. We put a new plan together now. We haven't given up on this, and we're now going to make another approach to West Suffolk Council regarding the skate park. We've changed the people that are designing for us to help us with that. We're upgrade the roadway. The roadway, as you know, for everybody who goes up and down the playing field, has been a difficult problem for us. At the moment, we temporarily repair the potholes with ground, and we've been lucky to get some of the ground given to us free by people in the town. The cost, I mean, there will be no cost for the car park, as it will come out the roadway cost. The costing to be advised, but estimates in the region of £55,000. In conjunction with Mark Skinner, so we support his project to have a quality children's play area. The estimate for that is about £100,000, but I spoke to Mark and that needs updating. Once the skate park is under construction, complete discussions will then commence for a BMX track, which we've worked on before, and there are already some plans in foot for that. Funding and costing for that has still got to be really sorted out, but until we can get the skate park going, there's little point in trying to do something like that, because at the moment it's a really hard battle to get anything done, get past the planning people. The river, we really want to concentrate on the river, so we're working in conjunction again with the Brexit fence. We already have wild swimming. They're going to bring some things down later in the year to do kayaking, paddleboarding, and different other river activities we can get. It's all to attract people into the playing fields, make use of all that area down there, which is the most beautiful area. And for the people that have been down there recently, you see there's a big information board. They're explaining the history of the river and everything about what's been going on since its start. We already have to slip way into the river. I know I'm looking at the history of that because it's interesting. But that's already in place, so that is a really big advantage to us.
Very conscious of time. Can you finish and wind up?
I am nearly finished. What I've also done is I've given a copy of this to Town Clerk, and I've also given a copy of our accounts for the year. And just one more thing I'd like to add, we're also currently discussing with Suffolk, we're going to introduce a electric vehicle parking space. That's in discussion at the moment, okay, but I presented them with all the information they need, and there's no reason why they shouldn't agree to that. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. I'm pleased about the grant for 5,000 for the picnic area. Obviously there was somebody in this room that cut the trees down for free for the wood. There will also be further money for that, the development of that, because I don't think 5,000 is really going to cut the mustard totally, which will be coming from my locality budget, and I think also from Jules and Councillor Lucanik. So that project you will have the money to be able to finish that project right through. So could I ask, what other activities do you think you could put on at the playing field that would bring in revenue? And I'm thinking of things like a concert in the park, or actually charging Brandon Festival for the ground, like and increasing your fees to the football clubs for the use of the pitches and the maintenance of the pitches, because they should also be contributing. And also there are a lot of other grants. There's, if you get onto the West Suffolk, you will find that there's, and I've already spoken with Brenda about this, but there's a lot of other funding sources you could tap into from grants also. But I think you need to be seen to be raising money yourselves as well. It's very easy to just keep coming back for the, you know, only the other day we refused a grant to the Abbeycroft Leisure because they'd had one in the same year for the same thing. And you know, in some respects, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. So,
If I can respond to that.
yeah,
Well, absolutely, we totally agree with all your comments. We do, this year we've got the Pride event going on this year, we've got the Brandon Festival going on, we've got the fun fair coming which we get revenue from, and we are looking, where we are now is much further forward than we were 5 years ago.
yeah,
We're a much solid bunch of people and we're more professional. So we are looking at potential funding streams to come into the playing field. Anything like you're talking about, we'll do. But what we've got to remember first of all is that we've got to present the playing fields first. It's a beautiful place, it always looks beautiful, everybody comments on it. The number of people through the playing field is increasing year on year. There are 14 football teams now, ranging from 5 to adults, including boys and girls. And we have 2 girls that are being monitored for their football for looking to move up in the world. So they're all from local people. But you can't do that unless you have the facilities to provide it. So yes, people like the football club, the bowls club, we'll be paying extra this year because we're going to have to put them up. But our committee have got to agree that number. But certainly I agree with everything you said. We're in a position now, I think, where we can really seriously look at funding streams for the future.
brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, thank you.
Can I just say something?
It's public. Peter, can we just wait? Did you want to speak?
Well, I wasn't, if I may, I wasn't going to. However, I must comment as a member of the Band Festival Committee that we have great difficulty raising funds to run the Band Festival. It is a charity event. And so to hear where we might actually have to be paid to take part on 1 day a year, one day in the year as a charity event seems a bit rich really. So these clubs, I mean, as you say, the football club have all increased. The bowls club, they use it on a much more regular basis. So I have to say I shall pass it on to my fellow committee members.
It was just a suggestion.
Yes, I understand. Yes, thank you.
So can we just finish off, just to say about the playing fields of the community. From my point of view, as chairman of the bowls club, our membership is growing all the time. Not necessarily for bowls, but for the social side, and that's the community aspect of our club. Because we run lots of events all through the winter. On the bingo court, we've got bingo on Friday, we have race nights, we have all things to go through the winter to allow people to come. We also host the Brandon Ladies Society, the Quilting Club, they're all people that come and use our club. It all adds up to the community and the facilities that we can provide. So there's a lot goes on that people don't realise, so thank you.
Lovely, thank you. At that point, as all the public have spoken, we will close the public participation and move on to item number 4, which is a draft budget of 25-26, and we will now review it. I will throw it open to the table. Councillor Lucanik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the first draft presented to us by the staff, and I'd like to thank the staff because they have worked quite hard on this, and it's not easy cobbling this all together. However, it's up to us, elected members, to make the decisions on the precept. That is in our gift to decide what goes on the precept. So we're in a position to make adjustments, and I have been in touch with the office during the week, and if we decide to make adjustments, then we can. I've got 2 big ticket items, Chairman, I'd like to raise quickly, and then, I don't know, it's up to you, Chairman, we can go back and vote on it, debate it, but I'd like to raise the 2 big ticket items, because they are substantial, and I'm going to revisit the grant for the playing fields. That's item 1401. It's on the 3rd page. It looks like the second year that they're without an increase. Last year we raised our precept 19%, and we could not give them a 3% increase. How mean is that? I was totally annoyed about that. Those football pitches do more for the health and well-being of children than anything else in the town. And there's a resolution in the system, and it goes back 20 years, because I know the history of the playing field. We used to look after that, and we handed it over to them, and we also, there's a resolution to say we give them an inflation-proof increase every year. If you go through the precept tonight, virtually everybody's had a 3% increase, but not the playing fields, and that is wrong. And some stage in the evening, Chairman, I will propose giving them an increase, and I'll be seeking a seconder. And that's not going to be a lot of money. A 3% increase is just under £1,000, 900 some odd pound. But there may be people around the table who may want to give them a slightly more because they miss.
Can I just hold you for a second?
Can I just say, would it be easier if we work out what everybody would like to do and then kind of vote on it all, and then I can work out the uplift in one go?
Well,
Rather than having lots of individual resolutions, can we just hear what everybody would like to
do? We won't deal with a resolution on this. Then I'll move on to my second big ticket item, if I may, Chair.
Yeah.
So can I just clarify? You want a 3% uplift? It's just so that I can run the figures now.
I would like, but that's got to be to me. That's not up to one person, is it?
No. But I'm just.
I'd be proposing a 3% increase.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the other thing is the lighting costs. Now, this is quite important. Item 4302 on the last page. Now, we've been allocated £40,000 for electricity use on the lights. Now, we'll never ever use that amount of money, and I'll tell you why, because virtually all the lights have been converted to LED. Now, a calculation was made by West Suffolk Council. If we stuck to the old lighting, that could cost us up to £63,000 a year. Alex Wilson calculated that, Chairman. With the LED lights, it's going to be £9,000. That decarbonisation fund was put in place, right, to save the town councils and parish councils money. And you know that, Mr. Chairman, because you fought, you battled, and Jules battled, the independents battled to give us parity with the lighting. Right?
It was to balance the
exactly
between the old St Edmundsbury Council, who didn't pay for their lights, and the old Forest Heath that did.
The decarbonisation fund was put in place to save the town council money, which it has done, and it should be relayed on the precept. The savings need to be seen. I suggest we cut that figure from 40,000 to 20,000, or possibly even more, because the estimate is that we will only use £9,000 worth of electricity. So that is my proposal, Mr. Chair.
Right.
And we battled for this, and we want this to be relayed on the precept that has saved the parishes in the former Forest Heath a considerable amount of money. That's why there's no harm in lowering the precept this year so that people can see there's been a saving with the lighting. Chairman, there's a couple of other things, but I'll leave them till later on.
Okay, thank you. Would anybody else like to comment on those?
Well, just on the back of what Councillor Lukanik said, that just makes sense, because that should have shifted anyway if we're saving money. Why is that just pointless, isn't it?
Tina.
Can I just say that the figures we've kept in there, we've kept in because we haven't actually received any official notification of what the savings would be. So we as officers can't present something if we haven't actually been given those indications, because I can't share them with you. So unless they send to us and say this is what your thing is going to be, I can't present that because I don't know how correct that is. The other thing is potentially, I know that you're talking about reducing the precept, but actually I think what council could do, and what we're going to do next month, is review after 6 months, and if we think that there is going to be underspends in areas, council then can reallocate those fundings to other lines or other potential projects. So we're safeguarding ourselves against whatever's coming, who knows, in the next few months.
That's fair
but
comment.
Also that money's still available within the budget.
But Chairman, sometimes we can be a bit frivolous because we've saved on that. Oh, we'll just throw it at something else. That's the problem with that. All I'm saying is, a saving has been made on the lighting. That's a fact, because the bills were all paid for the LED lights.
Yeah.
So,
as Tina.
I'm just saying, just thinking out of the box, is that if you were to have a look at that, you could then, if you wanted to put say, put more money into the cemetery project or into the TRO project, perhaps have a project line so that when things come up in year or we consider that we're in a position now to look at them more, that the money is available in the year and then doesn't have to be taken from general reserves.
Yeah.
But it actually puts into a project fund that still has to be a decision by council. But actually the money is available to us outside of the budget. So it is a saving in that we don't have to spend it on our costs, and it's been put into a project so that in year, if anything comes up, we can use that money, or we can choose to allocate it to somewhere where you want to, put money towards something else.
Okay.
Just a suggestion.
Me and you, Councillor. Just as an aside, the energy price cap was altered in the tail end of 2024, which caused an increase in gas price of 14% and electricity by 10%. The energy price cap is expected to rise again in 2025. Coupled that with our general costs and inflation, 23 was 7.3%, 24 was 2.6, 2.7, and 26 is 25. 2.7 is estimated to be, and 2026 is 2%. Now we know that these estimates can be very wildly off on inflation, and we could be back in a situation where our costs are rapidly increasing and we don't have the money precepted to give us a buffer. Now I will also say that because the carbonisation fund was put in place largely at the initiation of Councillor Brocklehurst originally many years ago, to get rid of the disparity between the old St Edmundsbury councils and the Forest Heath councils. And it was always looked by us is that they could do so much more for their towns because they weren't paying out on electricity. They were getting their money and spending it on their town. It seems to me that it would be quite unreasonable and foolhardy, if you like, to throw away that saving back onto a slightly lower precept. And be quite honest, that would make virtually no difference to the precept amount of 3 point whatever it is percent that is estimated.
5.9.
Sorry?
3.59.
3.59. It might make a point something difference and be relatively meaningless. So I would say that we need to keep hold of that money. We're looking at having to put money away very, very soon for a new gator replacement. And they are not cheap. You're looking 30 grand for one of those. So we need to have money. And as Tina has said, if we do have a considerable underspend, then we can look at what we do with that money. The sort of final thing I was going to say has just completely gone, and it was there a minute ago, so if I think of it, I'll come back. But
If I may, Chairman,
it's Councillor Pinnell. And then
Yeah, thanks. Look, I really despair at the idea that we say to people, well, we'll charge you money, but if we haven't spent it, we'll find something to spend it on later.
absolutely.
I think we had a 19% last year. I think we should be looking this year as having none. And I think there is ways within these figures, I mean, it's only 15,000, where we should have zero increase. We should be fighting for the people, not fighting for ways to find how to spend money.
Thank you.
I think if we look at something along the lines for the gator, for example, there are electric options available on a lease that will be minuscule compared to that kind of money. So I have a number of items we could talk about. I won't go through them. We'll go through them when we go through them. But I think for the benefit of the general public, we should say, look, we should be scraping as much off as we can to try and make everybody's life a bit easier. And I appreciate what you say.
Totally disagree. Can I throw it to Councillor Brocklehurst?
Okay. On the Precept figures here for item 2 treble 1, electricity, we've budgeted the same amount for last year, and we've budgeted the same amount for the coming year as what we spent last year. But if we've already known that we've got increases, then surely that figure is wrong. That we should have been allowing it's gone up 10%, which was the figure that you gave us there. So that's on this one. This is on the electricity costs, just I believe for the building. It's £4,000.
Yeah.
I haven't got the actual figures breakdown of that in front of us, but I believe that because of we underspent last year, didn't we? That actually with all that, we can literally stay at the same cost.
One will cover the other. That was the point that I wanted to get to with regarding the street lighting energy. Now on the street lighting energy, I agree with Councillor Canuck there with what he's saying, that we budgeted 40,000, which is the same as what we put in there that's been there in previous years. Being on LED, we would hope that we're going to be considerably less. I don't know what the figures work from. I'm sure what was said was on the old electric, we were 63k. Am I correct there? Yeah. And from that was what West Suffolk was saying. They were suggesting that we could be at 9,000. That's a massive, massive drop. I'd like to see the figures there, so I understand the 40k going in there. I understand also that we have to be careful where we do spend our budget. There's a piece here, if I may read it out. It says expenditure which in the opinion of the council is in the interest of the area and its inhabitants and will benefit them in a manner consummate with the expenditure. So therefore, when I first looked at the savings on the electric lighting, where we were disparate with St Edmundsbury, I did keep using the term, I would like to see something on the Precept for the nice, not always the work. And I believe that what Tina's saying about carrying some money over, I do understand that, but I also am conscious that it should be something that's discussed and is actually within these figures that we produce. So if we kept the figure the same or slightly lower or whatever we did, but I do think we need to put something in here that does things for the town. Not just replace the gator. The gator, it's working. It's a working thing. You've managed to do the picnic table with locality. I think that's what we should be looking. We should be trying to find ways that we can put something nice, something good, whether it was transport for the old folks, or community centres, swimming pool, joke, but you know what I mean, something good for the town rather than just something that's always work orientated.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to be detracted from the main issue. There was £1 million grant from West Suffolk given to the former Forest Heath councils so they could make a saving in their Precept. That was the idea of it. The way you wanted to do it, that the saving will not be transferred, it will not be visible. That is wrong. There should be a saving, it should be visible, and people should be aware of that the decarbonisation grant has saved the parish council money. Right? If you want money for other schemes, then you can take it from general reserves or you can Precept for it. But that specific item, which is unusual, it'll never come round again, that needs to be reduced. That £40,000 needs to be reduced. If you want to reduce it to 30, if you want to reduce it to 20, but on a matter of principle, that needs to be reduced because I worked my socks off to get that grant. You did, and you did. And that is a one-off reduction. That ain't going to come back and haunt us. And I'll be disappointed if you leave it at 40,000 because then people will say, well, you never helped us. Where is the savings from the grant? Where is the savings? There has been no savings because you're not putting it down as savings.
Tina.
I think that what might be an option is that as we go through the list, if you look at things that you want to increase in the budget, because I think the budget's a very reasonable increase, to be fair. It's with the rate of inflation. I don't think anybody expects anything else really.
Okay, well,
You decrease the electricity bill by what you increase everything else by, so it's a balanced budget.
okay, well, if I may, Chair, let's keep that up our sleeves. I've raised those two issues. Go through some of the points. If somebody has a brainstorm and say, look, we can adjust the lighting, and we can make use of it on something else, which is important. You know, it's no good being frivolous and saying, oh, we got this money from the lighting thing. Bang, we'll go and spend it on the bloody gator. So, but thanks for listening, and let's march on with all the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, because there's always many ways to achieve an outcome. You know,
But
you know,
it-
and if that is the view, that the view of the councillors, you want to keep it to this level, but you want to make increases in some areas and decrease in others, and it makes sense that you balance those increases and decreases, and you still end up with a balanced budget.
That's correct. And the balanced budget is the most important thing.
Yeah,
nowadays.
so if we just go through and people
But
put
I
their...
will reiterate, because of what Councillor Lucanis has said, that it was always that it appeared that the old St Edmundsbury Town Councils were able to do so much more because they weren't paying the electricity bill than we were because we were paying the electricity bill. Now we have the opportunity as a council to, as Councillor Brocklehurst has so rightly said, to do more, to do not just the maintenance and the wages and the mundane stuff, if you like, but to actually get up and do more for the town and its inhabitants. So I think it would be an absolute sacrilege to cut that 40,000 now, particularly as we don't actually know what savings we really are going to make. We don't have the figures yet, and won't do probably until the end of next year. No, this year, sorry. We are next year now, aren't we? Councillor Brocklehurst.
Yeah, one of the things that a member of the public, Mr Kennedy said, and I have had some discussions with Paul McLaughlin down there in the President's Room playing field where they were talking about the Queen Elizabeth Garden. I'm sure the members are well aware I put a resolution last year to for a memorial for our late Queen, which was, it wasn't deferred as such, it was to investigate further.
Yeah.
But I think basically we got a well, it was a good thing that we were maybe looking at doing. Maybe we might suggest that some of that lighting savings may well go onto that QE, onto some form of memorial to the Queen. Because let's face it, if we always said we wanted to do it, and if we are going to do it, it's not going to be a cheap project.
Mm-hmm.
We would need to spend an amount of money. So I would like to, well, Vic had just said, you know, if someone comes up with an idea to spend something, that's the one I'll throw into the hat.
Very good
Not
one.
that hat I'll throw in.
It's a very good one. Anybody else? Councillor Ridgeway.
Well, I'd like to go back to the remembrance playing fields. I think we should increase that. It's up to the council how much increasing it, but definitely nothing less than 3,000. We never gave them anything last year, which I was very disappointed in, and I did say quite a bit last year about it. I can't believe that we didn't give them anything, but definitely we should increase it this year. I think with our ideas, I think a car boot and perhaps a concert down on Remembrance playing fields to bring in revenue. High Lodge is always very well patronised.
Yeah.
You've got 30 odd acres out there. You know, car park might be a bit small for it all, but definitely a car boot. Wheating every fortnight. Packed, charge 5, 6, 7 quid. You know, bring in money.
There are lots of ways that you can raise money for it.
You know, it's what people want. I mean, the tennis court, that could be advertised a bit more.
Absolutely.
I don't see people
That is
using it.
generating income.
You know, and when I was on district, I gave quite a bit of my locality budget for the tennis courts, etc. But while I'm on my feet, so to speak, several years ago, I did bring a motion to the council, which was passed, but when we cutting bits off, it was taken out. I think we should have a contingency fund brought back of £10,000, that when there's certain things that we haven't precepted for, defibrillators, we didn't precept for that. If you've got a contingency fund, you can take the money out of that. We didn't precept for the town clerk's laptop, and then we've got 2 laptops, but we didn't precept for it. But if you have this contingency fund, you don't have to spend it, it's just there, that when you have these projects,
Very
You can-
sound proposition.
so
Can I say also, it's really useful if suddenly a year of grant opportunity arrives and we need to match fund it, if there's money in there that could be used for the match funding.
Yeah, if we're applying
So
for a
it's
grant.
like a seed fund.
So I would be quite, sorry, councillor,
Not having done these before, it's maybe a stupid question, but we're looking at a TRO. Where would any funding that the council put into that, where would that come from?
I think if you go along the lines of the contingency fund or the project fund, that line would actually be a one line, that is a project fund, but then you would earmark within that fund different amounts.
Right.
So that then like for next year, I want, next year, we're all on next year, aren't we? Next month to full council, what I intend to do is bring forward any forecasted underspends from this year. And if there's anything is significant, that is the sort of thing that you could say, right, any underspend on this line, this line, this line, this line, we're going to put it into here against, on a breakdown of 20%, 50%, 20%,
Yeah.
whatever. So I think if you have that project fund,
Yeah.
and it's very useful for that then to be able, otherwise the money just sits in the bank account, so it's not making any money, it's not doing anything. Whereas if you put it into a project fund, it can then go into the interest account, you're making interest, and it's available instantly for you to use if opportunity arises.
Lovely, thank you.
well, I would sort of propose then that if councillor Mechanic wanted to see that as a saving on the street lighting 40,000, that perhaps we set up a fund, as you've just mentioned, Tina, with some of that money, and some of it can go also. Councillor Mechanic has suggested a 3% increase to the Remembrance playing field. I would go along with that. I would second that for him, and we can say that could come from some of that 40.
Yeah.
But I would be very reluctant to get rid of that 40. Sorry.
So just say that 3%.
Reluctant to get rid of that 40,000 until we are certain of the figures of the saving. We have been told, but quite honestly, I would not go and get rid of it until we actually know what we've been told is true.
You can't say we're stuck at Taiwan.
I think it's more that we haven't actually been officially been given any figures.
We
And
haven't
therefore-
never been given official
And
figures.
therefore, I mean, particularly from an officer's point of view, if I hadn't been given those reduction figures, I wouldn't want to tell councillors. I mean, you can make whatever decisions you like, but I wouldn't want you to make decisions on stuff you haven't actually seen the
No,
information
I'll
on.
give it you the other way around. When we took power at the West Suffolk, and Victor and Jules will back me on this, our first mission was to get rid of the massive spend that the previous administration wanted on a new hub and sports centre in Bury St Edmunds, and we did that. But throughout the period that they were promoting it, they were saying, well, the old sports centre, it's 20 million just to keep the lights on. Well, we're refurbishing the whole place for 9 million. So you cannot rely totally on the figures you get.
Basically what I said is very mediocre.
They're guesstimates. They're guesstimates.
Allegedly.
And some can be quite biased.
Could I also just say that 3% for the playing fields is £990?
Yep. So,
Sorry. Right. I just, as we were chatting, I was scribbling some things down, and yeah, whilst everybody wants to see no increase on their council tax, I mean, there are things in here that literally, they're unavoidable, and they're from previous years, they're historical things. And I'm noticing on the old schoolhouse maintenance last year was £1,200. This year we've got £3,000 there because there's a 5-year electrical test due. I know that there's on the bottom of that same page, horticultural and tree work survey. £500 for horticultural work. Well, we all know that won't go far on trees.
no.
But it's £5.5 for a tree survey.
Yeah.
But that's to survey every single tree in the in this town
And
that's not been done before.
and produce a 5-year plan so that then we can budget more accurately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We know we've got things like in the old morgue when we went to that, there hadn't been an asbestos.
We will check.
There hadn't been an asbestos check there, and these are all things that with having a clerk now, having a clerk, an experienced clerk, we're going to find that we have got expenses that we've never had in the past that we're going to have to start paying for just to bring ourselves up to date.
Yeah.
You know, this tree survey, you look at it, you go, wow, £5.5 on a tree survey. But if any one of those trees falls and it's our fault,
It could be millions.
So we do need to be conscious there. So there's certain things I'd like to see us try and save in some areas, and we've got bits in others. I think it is juggling these around. The playing fields, I certainly think, I'd like to give them their 3% this year, and possibly be looking at the views of a long-term plan with a bit of a relationship. Now things are developing more there, that in the future we may well look that the playing field is putting on concerts and things like that, and it becomes self-sufficient. It may well work that way. And I picked up on one thing that was said tonight. I think that was Councillor Ridgewell. He said that the playing fields used to be the town council managed. Is that correct, Peter?
I'm right, at this point I'm going to just suspend the meeting so that...
Yeah, just sorry to interrupt, but following on what Gary's saying there, and looking at the opportunities to increase our funding, one of the things we want to do is create our own website to cover the playing field, because if we're going to develop or facilitate different events over a period of time and attract people, we need a website so people can look at it will cover all aspects. So that's one of the things we're going to do also to improve the way people can find us, where they are, and so on. So
Yeah, do talk with Tina on that, because she has a line that can help
okay, thank you.
considerably.
Yeah. Yeah, so again, I mean, that's what I was saying.
Back to the general meeting.
Yes. I don't think we can just look at saying, let's cut the playing field, or even leave it where it is. They need some more so that they can start running really efficiently, well, not saying not now, but start planning, for the future, so that eventually they are. That money will be there. And it will actually generate more funding to be spent in the town on other things.
Do we think 3% is enough?
No,
Should it be?
Who said no?
me.
Right, can you wait until you're asked to speak, councillor, please?
No, I think £900 is a drop in the ocean, really. I think it should be at least 6%, and draw some of that finances away from the lighting to cover
Do you want to propose that?
that. I will
I'll
propose
se-
it.
I'll
check on
There
So
we go.
6% would be, we've got to add that up.
1800.
1,800 and so on pounds.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
Or did you just want to go for an easier figure?
Round it up.
Like 2,000?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll propose 2000.
I'll second it to you. Okay, so if we put that down as a 2,000.
I mean, that will compensate
Right.
for last week.
Yeah, and then we can.
Councillor Ridgewell.
We didn't give the Remembrance Playing Fields any increase last year. 3% is nothing, it's £990, just under 1,000. I'm proposing we definitely give them £3,000.
Well,
2,000 isn't enough. 2,000 isn't enough.
It's better than
better than
990.
Yeah, true.
It's better than nothing.
Exactly.
we already
It is-
have a proposed and seconded at 2,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
that
we-
is what we will go with.
So, but we'll do it all at the end and so
Yeah.
Can I still carry on?
Yeah.
As Mr Kennedy said, Brandon Remembrance Playing Fields is the jewel in the crown of Brandon. That really is. There's not many towns that's got playing facilities as good as what we've got down there.
No, and I'm very heartened to hear how Mr Kennedy and his team are going to
I
enhance.
don't
and
think £2,000 is enough.
we have that on the table, seconded.
Chairman, can I
right.
just...
Jules Savage.
That's all right, that's been
Right.
covered. Yeah.
Okay. He can propose it, yes.
Even an amendment if you want to, yeah?
Yeah, as an amendment, you can propose it.
I'm proposing £3,000 and hope somebody's going to...
Will that get seconded?
I'll second it.
Okay.
And if it comes off the electric bill, that's a good move manoeuvre.
At the end?
It
Yeah.
will be seen that we are trying
Yeah.
to enhance the joy of the ground.
So you have your way, Peter. Councillor Buchanan.
3 quick ones. I just don't want any ambiguity on item 2107 because what it says is cemetery works £20,000. That's not accurate. That's a new cemetery works £20,000. I don't want that being channelled off to the old cemetery, Chairman. So if we can correct that in the that's new cemetery.
Yeah.
Look at me and say yes.
Yes.
Good. I'm just going to pick up on Councillor Brocklehurst's £5,500 for a tree survey. That seems like an awful lot of money, but if we act on their recommendations, right, and get the work done, I don't have a problem with that. But don't spend £5,500 if you're not going to act on the recommendations. But that survey, you have to incorporate the trees in the orchard, which are an absolute mess, and the trees in the load are growing through the guards, the tree guards. So we can deal with that. Let me finish first, Tina, and then you can have your say. 4101 horticultural expenditure, £500. 4101. That's somewhere at the back.
In the general.
Yeah, 4101. All you've got for horticultural work, and that means trees, is £500. We've just bought one tree, and that was £200, right? So all you've got for the whole year is £500. I would like to see that expenditure increased. I know you put 3% on it, and that comes out at 525. That is an awfully small amount, Tina, for horticulture, because that includes trees. That tree, and I'll repeat it, came out with £200 last week. I'd like to see that increased, and I'd like to see that coming off the decarbonisation bill, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to assure you that the tree survey, when we put out the criteria, I think it's for 400 trees to be surveyed, isn't it? Is it 400?
I think that was what Donna
400
said.
Yeah,
from the top of
but
my, from the top of my head.
that doesn't include
that is to be
that is just the avenue in the cemetery, because there's 400 trees in the avenue in the cemetery, right?
And the orchard as well. It definitely had all. I may not remember exactly how many trees we said it was. So, and actually when we looked at the figures of what we've already received, the 5,500 is absolutely in the ballpark of the quotes we've already received. So that is what fed our figure on that. But the other thing is it's quite difficult, and why we want a 5-year plan is we don't actually know how much is going to be needed per year, which is why we want the 5-year plan. So this year, I mean, you can put up the horticultural, but next year we'd be much more informed about how much those costs are going to be, because we'll have a maintenance plan. So it is a bit of a kind of in between.
That'll
but
be
if
the
we want to
first
put that up,
time
that's-
in Brandon Town Council history that we're paying somebody, right, to go around and look at the trees. Because I'll be honest with you, it's not rocket science. You could tell what a tree wants. I'm surprised, but listen, You've got your resolution. I remember that. It went through. We'll go for it. But years ago, the councillors ran this table and made a decision on what we do with the trees. So we've been relegated now just as bystanders. We've got outsiders coming in. They're going to survey the trees. Is it going to cause grief? I don't know, but we're going to go with it. But as I said, if we don't act on their recommendations and just say, well, okay, we'll kick it into the long grass, that'd be a complete waste of money. It's a lot of money, Gary. You know it's a lot of money, right?
There is no, I can assure you, there is no way that it will be spent on a tree survey and then we don't do or act on it. Can I come to
Yeah, I was just
Councillor?
going to say on the back of what Gary said and what Victor was saying, we can't also afford to compromise ourselves
No.
because, you know, experts are experts, aren't they?
Yeah.
Supposed to be.
When I was cutting the trees down at the Remembrance playing field, I just had a sixth sense and stepped aside, and the one behind me fell. It sheared off from the stump and fell. They were that dangerous, weren't they? If it had fallen on me, I have my own public liability insurance.
You wouldn't have been here to have that.
I wouldn't have been here to collect it. But if it fell on a member of the public, or one of Brandon Town Council's trees fell on a member of the public, Gary's right, it would be millions. And criminal charges.
Brandon Town Council does not have
So
any
what I'm
children.
trying to say, Councillor Mechanic, is times they have changed. The times aren't a change, well they're still changing, but they have changed since the old days when we could go round, oh yeah, that's all right. We cannot rely on that anymore. We would leave ourselves open to litigation.
But my question is, just how much did you want to put it up by, please?
Well, I think £2,000 for horticultural because that
Okay.
includes trees are expensive, you know, and when they go in, they need to be looked after as well.
Okay.
You know, they don't look at a tree won't look after itself for the first 2 or 3 years.
That's right.
I'd go for two, and that's coming off the electricity bill, isn't it?
Everything.
I think what we
Do
need
we
to
have a
say is
second
we're going
for
to have
that?
a balanced
Yeah.
budget.
I was going
Right.
to say, I would also back Councillor Canick on that, because also, if you're going to be potentially acting on whatever the tree report survey says, there are going to be, percentage says, some trees that are going to need to be felled and are diseased. And they're all going to want replacing with something.
Yes.
So there's going to be a certain percentage of that report that will need to be replaced. It's not going to be £500 worth.
Could they come from Councillor Mechanic's nursery?
I don't think we should be making those sort of
No,
comments.
we have this resolution.
Yeah,
for
well,
nursery.
that wouldn't be a bad idea, but we'd like to build a nursery and we'll debate it one day. There's potential for a nursery. Save us.
Oh, I thought
that.
you'd actually got one. I was like,
No.
oh God.
That would save us. That would save us.
No.
Shady business.
It was one of the uses for the cemetery
Save us
side.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
New
Save us
cemetery.
That would save us thousands.
The thing is there's lots of grants around at the moment for replacement of like heritage orchards and things like that. So I think there's a lot we can look into once we know how the land
You know,
lies.
there's, if I may, Chair, there's great potential in the orchard. I love the place, but it needs a good, excuse the pun, a root and branch clear out in there, right? It's got great potential. It will be a lovely place. We're going to have to spend some money, perhaps not this year, but next year when we have the tree survey. That next year might be the year where we can chuck a few quid at it and make it look smart. It's a bloody disgrace at the moment. At the
Great
back.
use of the savings we make on our electricity.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just running out of
Right.
There you go.
Just for you.
Go on, go.
No, I've just said that's the way to go.
Okay.
Right, I'm looking for hands and you're waving in front, but Henry's
Just
had
one
his
question,
very patient.
On the 1143 SWHW support, the £2,000 rise there with domain security management website accessibility.
So what number, Henry?
1143.
1143.
From 500 to £2,500.
Oh, yeah. That's the security internet.
Yes.
Website access, maybe you can help Mr. Kennedy.
No, not necessarily just the website. Is that Our town council's IT has no security. We don't even have linked up email accounts. We don't. One of the problems we have, one of the big problems for us, Jackie's just about to roll her eyes, is that all the documents I make, the only person who can see them is me. Okay, all the documents Jackie makes, the only person who can see them is her. If we lose her stuff, then that all disappears. If anybody does it, there is no shared domain. We don't have any of that. We don't have any security. So if anything happened, we would lose everything. And so we actually need to do that. Obviously, the first thing we're going to do at full council next week is look at gov.uk domains, which is much more secure. So we are starting that journey. This is an estimate of how much that will be, and we will go along accordingly as we make
So
our
just
way
an
through
estimate.
that. Yeah, because
Don't know yet.
the councillors haven't decided what they want to do, and therefore I can't cost it. But it could be a project that you could use that fund for.
Couple here, 4104, truck maintenance and road tax is 0. Last year, 0 this year. But we've already said that we're going to need to replace it with something else forthcoming. Should that not then have a sum of money ring fenced to it per annum?
Well, it's not actually maintenance, and again, if you're going to have a project and you're going to put funds into that project, you would earmark a percentage or a weighting of that. So any underspend that we have, you might say 10% goes towards a new vehicle.
Yeah.
And you do that each year.
Okay, and and the other one was, if you might mind, I'm still there, Paul, is 41, underneath that, 4105, town clock repairs. We put, it was £500 last year, we put a 3% increase on it. It's still 2 minutes out, despite all the best endeavours of Councillor Cannock. I know Vic spent hours up there trying to get it right. We have to turn it off for Remembrance Day so that it isn't ringing early at 11 o'clock. But it's now still ringing, it's bonging 2 minutes early. Now, I understand that it was Smiths at Derby, I think it was, who were going to do some work. That was quite expensive, so we went for the cheaper option. But the people who've done it don't seem to have done it right and don't seem to be keen to come in and put it right. So it's actually going to cost us more unless we can pursue these other people. So is 500 quid there for the clock? That is an integral part of the town.
I think again, this is an option. It sounds like I'm a salesman now. I think this is an option for your project thing, and you'd make the clock one of them. Because it'd be useful to talk to people like Historic England and anything like that, because there may be funding available to deal with the clocks, but we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. So again, if you were going to have a project fund, that could be an identified project within that project line, and therefore you could put money towards it. And again, you know, if you do a review at 6 months into the year, if you can definitely identify savings everywhere, then that's money that you can put into it again. And also it gives us seed funding that if people like Historic England wanted to help us with the repairs and restoration, we would say we've got this amount of money to put towards it.
We would though, on that, is we are relying on 6 months' time having a surplus.
The thing is the repair, we don't know how much, again, I don't know how much that is. So it's, when you're doing this, there is an element of, we can only work on the information that we have. We don't know how much that would cost, and therefore, if this is what we've had this year and we've worked within it, it's a reasonable assumption that we'd be able to work within it next year. But if next year we want to do a restoration, then we need to find out how much that is. I can't just kind of go, it's 10 grand.
Yeah, surely we should, as a council, be pursuing the people that we've spent money on fixing it and didn't fix it. You don't, you know, pay Jules 50 quid to do something, and she goes, thank you, I'm off.
Noted, I think we can look at that.
It's something that definitely should be done.
If you've paid for it and it still isn't working right, then you go back.
Yeah.
and either give us the money back
Right.
or fix it.
I've got my hand up. Chairman's budget of £200. It's been 200 quid as long as I can remember. And I don't think it's anywhere near enough. And it should go up.
What did you spend it on last year?
I've never spent mine. You spent it once taking the staff out for a Christmas dinner when you were chair.
Well, if you hadn't
But
spent,
that-
if you
but
hadn't
that
spent
wasn't-
any
I
of it,
mean, 200 quid wouldn't buy
Mm.
a fish and chip supper for the
Yep.
staff.
Mr. Chairman, with the greatest respect, if you hadn't spent a penny of that £200 now, well, why do you want an increase on it?
Because then I would have a sum of money that would be worth spending.
Well, £200 go
Well, in
on.
actual fact, I did spend some of it. I spent some on wreaths. I believe, didn't I? Yeah. Yeah.
Very not sure about that.
Wreaths for Remembrance
That's
Day.
right, you did, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So I would like to see that increase to, I don't know.
I think it's a difficult one because it's an expense that's claimed. I think unless you actually know what you're going to spend it on, or there's a regular, I think that's quite difficult. But I mean, that's up to councillors. If you want to, you can. But I wouldn't say that it could be significant because then you have to justify. If you're not spending it, you'd have to justify why you're putting it up.
It's only a couple of years ago, Councillor, that you proposed that it was removed.
Possibly.
Yeah, you did. I've got the minute here.
Yeah, because I never spent it.
No.
So
Well, if you haven't spent it then, Chairman, then you don't need an increase, but I'll leave that up to...
But, I mean, Gary has just pointed out, because I think we spoke about it some while ago, didn't we? Mayor's Tea Party or Chair's Tea Party and things of that nature. But
I think if you wanted to do that, the thing to do is to increase the events line. And under the understanding that the events team then have to produce out of that year a chairman's or a council's dinner for whomever. And you make it so then all that spend then also has to go through a committee and therefore is fully transparent to the public.
yeah.
So if you wanted to do things like the niceties of this, that and the other and putting on events and helping the playing fields put on events, then perhaps the thing to do is uplift the money that you give to the events committee to spend.
Could I then propose that we withdraw the chairman's allowance, but we make an addition to the events allowance?
by that man.
Of how
On
much?
£300.
Next was to make it 500.
I was
No.
going to say 500 because another 100 is not going to go far.
It's
No.
500.
So make it 500. I
Yeah.
put forward 500.
And then what we can
Yeah.
do is when we look at the terms of reference
That's
for
right.
the
Then you can
events
decide
committee,
whether
you can
it
decide
covers
what
it.
that has to be spent on.
Yeah,
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
Chairman's.
£500.
I'm sure if we
Something.
provided some form of event type thing to invite business people in, where they were entertained, it would pay for itself.
Yeah.
We would recoup that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah. All right, I'll propose 500.
I'll second.
You beat me.
Okay, so I'm just making notes of all of these events. So events
Yeah.
is to go up by another 500. So at the moment we're on £7,500, Councillor Cannick, in the office.
Is this electric fund?
Excellent.
No, I just want to. So we've now proposed that we spend more, which is fair enough. It's a voted thing. Are we therefore proposing the precept is increasing, or are we taking it off?
So what
Mr.
the idea
Mechanics.
was we were going to find out what everybody wanted to increase and then use that as the decrease on the electricity, so the budget remains balanced, but you've had a saving on the electricity and you've put up the other areas that you wanted to, but it hasn't cost any more. The
Good.
balance is balanced.
Can we get a more accurate figure on staff salaries? Because I did make some inquiries with the office because I thought it was a bit vague, and how it could be the same was a bit unusual.
Well,
And I understand why,
yeah, so it went
because
from
it was explained.
25 hours to 15 hours.
No, I don't. That's
Yeah.
fine. I'm not worried about those bits. We know that the figure for the year is expected to be this, and then you put 5% on.
That's because there's going to be a pay rise allegedly in April.
Okay, I'm surprised we would put 5% on when inflation is generally the rigour for pay increases at RPI, CPI, which is going to be between 2 and 3%. Should we not have that figure plus whatever the RPI is, or are we expecting that our staff are going to be paid even more than the inflation?
Well, I think the thing is it's staffing is also salaries. Who knows what they're going to come up with? They may even turn around and say there's a pay freeze. I mean, we just don't know.
No.
So actually 5%.
That's what a budget is, isn't
yeah.
it?
So 5% is actually kind of when people look at things, it's normally 3%, but then it's 5% for things like salaries and utilities and things like that, because that can be unexpectedly.
Well, we put up
high.
the pension and the NI, which is in line with that figure. So I don't think that argument wouldn't stand, because they're two separate items and we list them as separate. But I just think it would be better for us then to have the exact figure rather than just go, well, it's very close to the other one, so we'll keep it.
We don't know what the exact figure is, because we don't know what it's
We know what we expect the budget to be.
No,
because
we don't know what we expect the pay rise to be.
No.
And that's the
but
thing.
Even if you put 5% on,
yeah,
it's still going to be lower than 167,000. Otherwise, we just put the whole budget and say, well, we don't really know what it's going to be, so we'll just.
But actually, there is an element of we don't actually, in reality, know what. We know some things, but not all of them.
If we go on the basis of a 6-monthly reconcile, I went through our month 7, and there are probably 20 items in here that are well below their budget. So you'd come back to us and say, well, these are going to be an unspent.
Yeah.
But we know that now, and we also know it from the figures that we've got for next year. We know this year's figures, so for next year. So I just think that we should be looking at the figures and saying, well, there might be some scope there to reduce some of them.
Yeah,
because it's an element of we don't know.
Potentially, but I can't give you more accurate figures. The figures we are using are the ones that we spoke to Salcar payroll people about as well.
Yeah.
And therefore, they're better placed than us for those figures. And I think it's a reasonable assumption. From an officer perspective, I think it's a reasonable assumption.
What, 5%?
If councillors want to change that, that's absolutely up to you. But from my perspective, and working with Salka and with Donna who's done it, I think it's a reasonable assumption.
Chairman, if I may, and as we've touched on, staff costs, and are quite important, and my colleague here has raised it. In 2022, our staff costs were £109,000. In 2023, our staff costs were £153,000, and now they're asking £167,000. Over a 2-year period, that's an increase of 53%, Mr. Chairman. And we've now been informed tonight that there will be another additional pay rise in April. I'm concerned that over a 24-month period, the staff costs have gone up 53%. That's all on there, Chairman. That's not figures I have made up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councillor Watts.
But if you remember, when we had the HR committee, we discussed wages quite a lot, and it was discovered that a number of employees had been paid on the wrong pay scale for quite some time, and that 50 whatever percent adjusted all those members of staff to the correct up-to-date pay scale.
no hands going up.
Mine's a change of subject on that.
Sorry?
Mine's a change of subject.
Oh, you're going to speak, are you? Well,
Yes.
I thought we'd be lucky and go for a vote and get home.
Right, now,
Hurry up!
Right, what I was going to say is, so what have we spent with the electricity, please?
So what we've looked at is a, let's go back.
7,500.
7,500.
Right.
7,500. So you would reduce the electricity by 7,500.
Okay.
You'd put horticultural up by 2,000. You'd put the events up by 500, and the 5k would be the increase. No, sorry, was it 3k? 3k.
3,000.
3k. So we're up to 5,500 to come off the electricity.
Well, let me make a suggestion. Round the electricity off to 30,000. So that's only another £2,000 or £3,000, right?
Okay.
That can go in general reserves, and I'll get back in my little box, and I won't mention it. But I'm getting a signal from somebody who's far more senior to me in a position. Please, Mr. Brockler,
So
speak up.
what I'd scribble down here is,
Before you agree, ask him for how many meetings he'll go back in.
yeah, if we've got round about £10,000
Yep.
come from the electric going into the NICE fund, could we also, I know it would be a very small percentage, cut 10 grand off the whole precept. It's a mere drop in the ocean, but it just show a decrease.
I think,
Is it too much?
but also you can't just lop a load off the top.
Yeah.
So, and actually,
Why?
I know this is controversial, so I do apologise in advance.
Well, don't make it controversial.
But
You haven't got to apologise.
but as officers and things, I don't think long-term management of your funding, a decrease in your precept, because costs will only ever go up.
Yes.
So for the long-term view on that, potentially I don't find you'll find that any officer will ever recommend that you do that.
The only reason I'm suggesting that, Steve, is because it's a one-off. We're never going to get this electric one again.
The thing is then that also gives you a one-off opportunity
To spend it.
to make a fund that could then become something that continues in the long term
Yeah.
as a good thing.
Which is
So I think balancing it. So if you do 10,000 plus the 500, that's actually reducing it to 25,000.
I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to compromise, let's face it. If we can make an agreement without beating each other up, that's fine. Keep the chairman happy.
I'll second it then.
Yeah.
So that's 10 grand going into a...
So wait a minute. So that's 10,000 to 8 projects. Yeah. In your projects. Yeah. So that's 3,000 to
Remembrance
playing fields, 500 to events, and 2,000 for trees. Yeah.
And the chairman's budget's gone.
Minus 200, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
That's
that's
the only saving we made.
so well.
Right.
It's about balancing. So the thing is the bottom line of the precept will remain the same, and I'll reduce the electricity by whatever is left. Yeah.
And
we
one,
seem to be making
So
a
what we
saving.
can do then is we can put this form on full council next week.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
can see the
Yeah,
revised
do the figures, and then because we're still bags of time, because you haven't got to submit it till next month anyway. So,
No, it's got to go this month.
oh right.
And the thing is then is what I would suggest then is council think about putting a statement out with the precept saying this is the reduction and this is how we've reinvested it into the town in this manner.
Definitely.
How does it come out then? How will I mean, we haven't finalised it, you haven't ratified it. How does it come out? Has the precept been decreased, or is it neutral? Is it a neutral budget? What is it?
So actually the increase is 3.59%.
Increase. Well, that was that before we started tonight.
Yeah,
wasn't
no,
it?
that's what I'm saying, but that's I think holistically
That
that is
does.
a reasonable.
Oh, and one last assurance, if I may, from the chair and the councillors. There's 2 trees in the avenue Reed replacing. One has stunted, that's a little run, that'll never be anything, and I think councillors will agree with that. and another one is deformed. That looks like a banana, and that will never be anything. So we've got flexibility in that budget. I want an assurance that those two trees, our stellar object in this town is the avenue, right? Those trees need to be 110%. If you're unsure about that, Tina, come down with me sometime in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I will show you two trees what are a bloody embarrassment.
We've seen them, Victor. I don't have a dog in the fight. Particularly as we're getting a tree survey done, we can speak to them and say, can you make this
Yeah, but that won't be till
process?
next year. I'd like to see them.
No,
No,
it is
we've
next
done-
year.
Yeah, we've done the vol- we've
Yeah, but
asked
they-
for the quotes.
yeah,
The
but
quotes
that-
will be coming back.
Yeah,
We want to get them in this winter. That's what I'm saying.
they will be.
Get them in like you did that
I can
last
assure you,
one.
Councillor Mechanic, they
I
will
mean, that
be
last
this
tree is a
winter.
handsome tree. We want two more like that, Tina.
Thank you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Very finally,
You got
briefly,
two.
Peter and then Paul.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't have made that
Mary.
up if I tried.
It's Mary.
Can I just get this quite correct? You're saying about this 10,000 project, is that the same thing as what I
Yes.
suggested about
Yeah.
contingency?
Yes.
Yes.
The thing
Right.
is that I would contingency indicates that it's only if it fails, whereas we want a positive project that we look at positive things to do within the town.
Right. Just
just
for the members of
semantics.
the public, so that there is no misunderstanding, what this means is that the money we request goes up by 3.59%. It does not mean your council tax is going up by 3.59%. It will barely make any difference at all to your council tax. Less than a packet of cigarettes a year. Much less.
It'll be £1,000. Literally, it goes up by about £1,000 and it's 3.59%.
Yeah, yeah,
It's about £1,000 between everybody.
yeah,
I would have thought that.
yeah. Finally, Paul,
Just said there that we were going to take it up to round figures up. There was going to be £2,000 left for buffer to go into your project fund, and I put my favourite subject up to grab some of that £2,000.
Well, the thing is once we put it in there, then we'll have a discussion
Yeah,
about what's
yeah,
in there.
then we'll
I
have
just
a
want to put it
discussion.
on the table so people know that I'm still.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like your style, but yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so what do we do now?
So I think that we agree that you want me to amend the budget by those figures and represent the form at full council next week to be rubber stamped. Is everybody happy with that?
I
And
prefer,
I will
the term,
change the
I
wording.
prefer the term to be voted upon.
Voted on, of course, to
Yeah.
be voted on by our elected councillors.
Rubber stamping is not something in my dictionary.
Okay, and I will change the wording to new cemetery as well.
Yeah.
I think, do we need to know that we are all in agreement with that though?
Yes,
We don't
so-
want it to come up on, we
so-
don't want it to come up to
So
full
you
council.
Right,
can, you
right.
can,
We
you
didn't
can
need a
vote on
decision
those,
tonight,
vote on
don't
those
we?
amendments,
Yeah.
yeah?
We will vote on those amendments at full council. And is
No,
ev-
we can
No.
vote on those amendments tonight
Night,
for me
right.
to change the presentation.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, so I will propose that we vote on these amendments
It's all banging them.
en bloc.
Second it.
We have a
Thank you,
second.
Jim. I thought I was going to fall by the wayside then for a minute, as there was such a
Yeah, we
difference.
were trying.
Can we have a show of hands? Unanimous.
Right.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I am closing this meeting at 20:29 and 20 seconds.
There won't be any shots.